The room was cold. White walls, no windows. Only a soft light above and a chair in the center. In that chair sat a human, still quiet, watching. 3 eyes blinked slowly from behind a glass wall. The Zalari scientists stood together, confused. Their skin shimmered with a pale blue glow, their long fingers tapping strange symbols on a glowing console. "This is the 7th hour," one of them whispered. Still no response. The human didn't speak, didn't move. Just stared. Dr. Velik, the lead alien scientist, tilted his head. Does he not understand, or does he refuse to understand? Perhaps his mind is too simple, said another. Or too clever. They had tried everything. Symbols, lights, sounds. Galactic languages, pheromones. They played music, showed him images of peace, war, family, space. Nothing worked. Still, the human sat there calm, quiet, unreadable. His name was Dr. Cade. He was a scientist from Earth, captured when the Zalari ship made first contact. The mission was supposed to be peaceful. A handshake, a message, a welcome. But something went wrong. Earth's systems failed. The Zalari thought it was an attack. They took Cade for answers. But now, they had only silence inside the room. Cade blinked slowly. He looked up at the light, then at the corner of the ceiling. His face didn't change. His breathing was steady. But something in his eyes was alive, sharp, calculating. He wasn't scared. He was thinking. Velik narrowed his eyes. Increase the temperature 2 degrees. Let's see if he reacts. The room warmed slightly. Cade didn't flinch. Try colors, said another Zalari. Show him the red storm from Vanus 4. It triggers emotions. The walls lit up, showing a violent, red electric storm. Cade leaned forward just a little. Not fear, interest. He looked at the patterns like a puzzle. Velik tapped the glass. Strange. This human doesn't speak, but he observes everything. They watched as Cade finally moved. He leaned back, then looked straight into the wall, right at them, as if he could see through the glass. Then he blinked, slowly. Once. Then again. A pause, then a third blink. What is he doing? Whispered the youngest Zalari scientist. Velik stared. I don't know. Leaned closer to the glass. It's a pattern. Look, the blinks. 1, pause, 1, 2. Velik frowned. A code? That night, sat alone in the control room, watching the human on the screen. He rewound the footage, counted the movements, the eyes, the breath. The way Cade tapped his finger twice on the armrest, then waited, then tapped again. He's talking, realized. Just not with words. The next day, entered the observation deck. I want to try something, he told the others. Velik sighed. Nothing has worked. He's resisting. Or he's waiting, said. He entered the silent room for the first time. Cade didn't move. Walked slowly. His tall, thin frame cast a shadow over the human. He sat on the floor, far from the chair. He didn't speak. He tapped his fingers once, pause once, twice. Cade's eyes followed. Then slowly Cade did the same. Tap, pause, tap, tap. Smiled. Velik. And the others watched from behind the glass. What is he doing? They're copying each other, said one. It's basic. But it's communication. For an hour, and Cade tapped. Eyes blinked in patterns. Shoulders moved. Heads tilted. They weren't speaking. They were drawing a bridge. Later that week, the room changed. They placed objects inside. A ball, a mirror, a small table with smooth sand. Cade didn't react at first. But when left alone, he stood up and walked to the sand. He used his finger and drew a spiral. Not just a doodle, a perfect mathematical spiral. The Zalari gasped. That's a Fibonacci sequence. Velik sighed. It exists in nature across galaxies. He's telling us he understands science, said. He's telling us where to start. The next day, they drew one back just slightly wrong. Cade saw it. He erased part and corrected it. No words. But now they were speaking in numbers. Over the next 10 days, the silent room changed again. A clear wall was placed between Tur and Cade. Both sides could draw on it with their hands. They started with shapes, then numbers, then emotions. Tur drew a heart. Cade paused. Then he drew a human hand holding another. Tur nodded. Communication was no longer about translation. It was about meaning. One day, Velik stormed into the room. "This is too slow. He should speak." Tur stood between him and the human. "No," he said. "He is teaching us. He's showing us something new." Cade stood and approached the clear wall. For the first time, he wrote something in English. "Stop talking. Start seeing." Velik stared at the words. Then at Cade. And finally understood. A week later, something impossible happened. Tur said one word. "Understand." Cade smiled. "Just a little." Then spoke softly. Finally. Two species had talked without sound, without language, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The observation room was quiet again, but not peaceful. The Zalari scientists stood in a line, watching the human on the screen. The man was still in the center of the white room, sitting calmly, just like before. But there was something different. Now his eyes. "Why does he look at everything so carefully?" asked one of the younger scientists. Tur didn't answer right away. He had been studying the human Dr. Cade closely for days. Every movement, every blink, every glance had a purpose. "He's not ignoring us," Tur finally said. "He's learning." Velik, the lead scientist, scoffed. "Learning what?" "There is nothing in that room but lights, sand, and a few objects." "He's learning us," Tur said, stepping forward. "He watches everything. Even the corners. Even our reflections." From the room, a camera zoomed in. Cade's eyes flicked upward. For just a second, his gaze locked onto the camera. Then he looked away, too quickly. "He saw that," Velik whispered. "Yes," Tur said, leaning forward. "He always sees." That evening, Tur returned to the silent room. This time he didn't bring charts or drawings. He just sat across from Cade behind the clear divider and looked into his eyes. For a full minute, no one moved. Finally, Tur raised his hand and slowly pointed to his left eye. Cade didn't move. But his eyes followed the motion. Tur repeated. "It's slower." Then, to his surprise, Cade blinked twice quick. Deliberate. Tur blinked twice and returned. Again, silence. Then Cade's face changed slightly. He narrowed his eyes, tilting his head like he was testing something. "What are you trying to tell me?" Tur asked softly. "What do you see?" Cade lifted a finger and tapped the divider once, twice, then paused. Tur copied him. Suddenly, Cade's eyes darted to the far left wall. Then the far right. Tyr followed the gaze. "I think he's testing my awareness," Tur whispered to himself. The next day, Tur set up a mirror in the room. Just one, at an angle behind Cade. Cade noticed it instantly. His eyes shifted, quick. Flicks left and right. Then he closed his eyes for 3 long seconds. Tur checked the video feed and rewound. It wasn't random. "Wait," Tur said, pointing at the screen. When he blinked, the mirror showed his eyes moving toward the reflection of us. "He knows we're behind that glass." Velik watched carefully. "But he doesn't turn. Why?" Tur leaned closer. "Because he doesn't want to scare us." The room went silent. 2 days later, they changed the test. Velik placed 6 strange shapes on the floor, each from different Zalari cultures. Some were symbols of war, others of peace. One was a trap used by hunters. Another was a sign of welcome. They left Cade alone. From the cameras they watched. Cade stood up slowly and looked at each object. He bent down, touched one, then moved it a few inches to the right. He repeated it with the others. Tyr gasped. "He's forming a pattern." When finished, Cade stepped back. From above, the shapes formed a perfect eye. "He's telling us." Tur whispered. "He's watching everything." And he wants us to understand that. Later that night, Ter couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Cade's eyes, how calm they were, how controlled. Not once did the human show fear, even when surrounded, even when isolated. Why? He walked to the lab and pulled up every second of video footage. There it was, every blink, every glance, every twitch. Always toward something. Always scanning. Then he found something strange. At exactly the same time each day, Cade looked up at the light. Ter zoomed in. Each time Cade's pupils dilated, not randomly. In reaction to the same frequency, he's using the light. Ter whispered, "He's measuring time." He rushed to Velek. "He's using our systems, our lights, reflections, even shadows to study the room like a map. He knows how long he's been here. He probably knows where the exits are. Maybe even how many of us there are." Velek raised an eyebrow. "That's impossible." "No," Ter said firmly. "That's human." The next day, they entered the room without warning. Cade stood, not surprised. "We want to show you something," Ter said. He rolled in a small machine, a hologram projector. It showed the galaxy, stars moving, systems rotating. Cade's eyes sparkled. Ter moved closer. "If you can read patterns, then show us how you read this." Cade looked at the stars. Then at Ter. Slowly, he raised his hand and pointed, not to Earth, but to a tiny star system far beyond the known border. Ter stared at the system. "That's not where he's from," Velek said. "What does it mean?" Cade tapped the glass once. His face was serious now. Then he drew a simple shape on the sand, 2 circles overlapping. Ter whispered, "A meeting point." Cade looked up, and for the first time he smiled. Ter smiled back. "He's not just watching," he said. "He's inviting us to look with him." The next session, something went wrong. The lights flickered. Suddenly, the projector glitched. The image broke into chaos. Alarms echoed in the hallway. Ter and Velek ran to the control deck. "What's happening?" Velek shouted. "The system, it's overheating. Someone rerouted the energy from our end." Ter turned to the monitor and froze. Cade was still in the room. Calm. He bent down and began drawing in the sand. Again. This timelines, angles, a full map, not of the galaxy. But of the station. "Oh no," Velek muttered. "He's showing us where we went wrong." Suddenly, the alarms stopped. The projector blinked back to life. The stars returned. On screen, Cade looked up and gave a single nod. "He fixed it," Ter whispered. "He saved the system," Velek said slowly. Later, as Ter sat across from the human again, he leaned forward. "Why help us?" he asked softly. Cade tapped the glass and pointed at Tyr's eyes. Then, quietly, he said the first words Ter had ever heard from him. "Because you saw me first." Ter froze. No translator. No delay. The human had been listening the whole time. Watching. Learning. Waiting. From that moment on, everything changed. The Zalari no longer treated the silent room as a cage. It became a classroom. And in that classroom, the first language not spoken with tongues was built from eyes, from movement, from silence. They called it the language of seeing. And it all started with a human who refused to speak until someone truly looked. The silent room was never truly silent anymore. Not for Ter. He sat at the control desk, eyes fixed on the monitor. The human, Dr. Cade, was drawing again slow, careful lines in the sand tray. The lines curved, circled, then repeated, forming a spiral. Every morning, it was the same, a perfect pattern. "He's repeating the Fibonacci again," Ter said to himself, recording the session. 7th time this week. Behind him, Velek entered the room. "Still no spoken words?" Ter shook his head. "None, but he's communicating through patterns," Velek sighed. "He's stuck in loops, repeating the same shapes, same rhythms. Maybe he's reached his limit." "No," Ter replied. "He's trying to teach us. He wants us to notice something. But we're missing it." Inside the silent room, Cade finished his spiral and sat down, brushing off his hands. Then, as always, he looked directly at the ceiling light and blinked twice like a clock reset. Velik scoffed behind the glass. This has no meaning. He's doing the same things again and again. Maybe the answer is in the repetition, Tur whispered. He fast-forwarded through previous days' recordings. Yes, the same spiral, same posture, same gaze. Except. Tur slowed down the footage. Then he froze the frame. Wait, he said, eyes wide. What is it? Velik asked, walking over. Tur zoomed in on the spiral from the third day. Look here. This part of the spiral bends slightly out of shape. Velik raised an eyebrow. A mistake? No, watch this. Tur switched to the fifth day's footage. Same shape, same base, same bend. Velik leaned in. He's not just drawing a spiral. He's hiding something inside the pattern. Tur rushed into the silent room the next day, holding a printout of Cade's spirals. Cade sat as usual, silent but aware. Tur knelt near the sand tray and drew a spiral, exactly like Cade's. But this time, he stopped where the bend happened. He circled it in the sand, then looked at Cade. What is this? Tur asked. Cade's eyes lit up just a little. Then slowly, he leaned forward and tapped the sand outside the spiral, where the lines broke pattern. Then he did something he had never done before. He wiped the spiral away completely and drew something new. It wasn't smooth or curved. It was sharp, angular, like a jagged crack. Tur watched closely. He's breaking his own pattern. Cade pointed to it, then tapped his chest. Tur blinked. You? Cade nodded. Then he pointed to the jagged shape again and shook his head. You're not like this? Tur guessed. Cade hesitated. Then slowly lifted one finger and tapped the shape once. Tur thought for a moment. You broke the pattern? Cade's eyes didn't blink. Then he did something even more shocking. He stood up and flipped the entire sand tray upside down. Sand spilled everywhere. The old spiral was gone. In its place, silence. Shock. And a clear message. No more patterns, Tur whispered. He's telling us something changed. In the control room, Velik was furious. He destroyed the test. He erased all the data. No, Tur said quietly. He gave us something more. Velik turned. How is destroying helpful? Because it wasn't random, Tur said. It was on purpose, that spiral. It was never meant to be finished. It was just a door. Velik frowned. To what? To a bigger message, Tur said. The next day, Tur placed a new tray in the silent room. This time, it wasn't sand. It was soft clay. Show me again, he said. Cade looked at the tray. Then, instead of drawing with his finger, he pressed his hand into the clay. A full palm print. Then he pressed again, this time, just 4 fingers. Then 3. Then 2. Tirr. Watched carefully. 5, 4, 3, 2, he whispered. Countdown? Cade nodded. Then sat back down. The message was clear now. Something was coming. Tur ran back to the control room. He's warning us. About what? Velik demanded. I don't know yet, Tur admitted. But he's breaking his patterns on purpose. Changing them. He wants us to stop looking for loops and start seeing the difference. Velik crossed his arms. Then let's test him. They changed the room. The lights flickered randomly now. The walls shifted colors. Even the temperature changed every 2 hours. But Cade didn't panic. He adapted. Each time something changed, he moved a little differently, sometimes standing, sometimes drawing, sometimes nothing. But every reaction was fast. Controlled. Like he knew what would happen. He's not reacting, Tur whispered. He's predicting. Velik leaned closer. How? I think. Tur hesitated. He sees the patterns we can't. That night, something strange happened. Cade walked to the corner of the room and tapped a wall panel. 3 times. A hidden hatch opened, revealing a small maintenance vent. Everyone watching gasped. How did he know that was there? Velik shouted. No one showed him. Tyr's heart raced. He mapped the room. Through shadows, reflections, temperature changes, he learned more than we ever expected. On the wall beside the vent, Cade wrote something with a broken shard of metal. Break your loop. The Zalari Council met the next day. Is this human a threat? One asked. No, Tur said. He's a message. Then what does he want? Tur stood silently for a moment, then replied. He wants us to stop thinking in circles. Back in the silent room, Tur sat beside Cade again. You knew the vent was there. You saw our cameras. You felt the heat behind the wall. Cade didn't speak. He just placed one hand on the clay and drew a straight line. Break, then another, then another. No more spirals, Tur said. No more loops. Cade finally spoke in a calm, deep voice. Evolution doesn't follow a circle. It breaks, it climbs. Tur felt chills run down his back. In the silence that followed. The meaning was clear. The patterns weren't just human or alien, they were mental. And Cade had broken his. Now it was the Zalari's turn, from that day on. The experiments changed. No more loops. No more repeated trials. Instead, they gave Cade puzzles without answers. Questions without logic. And every time, he gave them something new. No longer just a subject. He had become the pattern breaker. And through him, the galaxy was learning to see beyond lines. To think beyond shapes. To evolve. The room was different now. The silence was still there, but something deeper filled the space. A tension that could not be seen, but was felt. Dr. Cade sat alone, as always. But his eyes no longer wandered. They stared straight ahead, focused. Quiet. Tur stood on the other side of the glass, watching closely. He hasn't drawn anything in 2 days, he said. Velik frowned. Maybe he's tired, or maybe he's hiding again. No, Tur said. I think he's feeling something. Velik raised an eyebrow. Feeling? You mean like emotion? Yes, Tur said quietly. I think this next step isn't about logic anymore. Later, Tur entered the room, slowly. No sand tray, no projector. Just him and Cade. He sat on the floor, not speaking. Cade didn't move. After several minutes, Tur pulled something from his coat, a simple device. It played music. Soft, slow. A peaceful melody from a distant Zalari world. At first, Cade's expression didn't change, but then his eyes closed, and he took a deep breath. You feel that, don't you? Tur whispered. Cade opened his eyes and looked at him. Then he spoke just one word. Sad. Tur felt his heart stop for a second. He wasn't sure if it was the voice, the word, or the emotion in it that shook him. You understand sadness? Tur asked. Cade nodded. Music speaks when words fail. Back behind the glass, the scientists were stunned. He's using emotions now, one said. No, Tur corrected. He's decoding them. The next day, they placed color panels in the room, each glowing in different light waves. Red, blue, green, yellow, violet. Cade moved slowly between them. He stopped at red. Then blue. His hands moved through the light, like waves. Then he tapped his chest, once at red, once at blue. IRR stood up. He's assigning feelings to colors. He entered the room and pointed at the red panel. Anger? Cade nodded. Then he pointed at blue. Peace? Another nod. Then Cade pointed at green and didn't say anything. His face turned thoughtful. Unclear? Tur guessed. Cade smiled. Over the next few days, the room turned into a strange classroom. Not with books or numbers, but with light, sound, and facial expressions. They brought in pictures, images of family, war, art, death, laughter. Cade looked at each one, then reacted. Tears welled in his eyes at a photo of a lost child. He laughed softly at a cartoon image of an animal slipping on ice. The aliens watched every muscle in his face move. Velik shook his head. We don't express emotions that way, Our faces don't change. We use tone voice energy, Ter nodded. That's why this is new. He's showing us emotions visually, with his face, with his body. And we never saw it before. Velik said. Because we were only listening with our ears, Ter whispered. Not our hearts. One evening, something unexpected happened. A new scientist, young and nervous, entered the silent room with a test chart in hand. He walked close to Cade and placed the paper down. It showed two humans hugging. The scientist pointed and said, "What is this?" Cade didn't speak. Instead, he stood up and opened his arms. Then slowly, gently, he gave the alien a light hug. The young Zalari froze. His body wasn't used to such contact, but something inside him warmed. He stepped back, speechless, and smiled. For the first time in his life, in the next sessions, things changed faster. They placed emotional recordings in the room, laughter, crying, screams, singing. Cade listened, eyes closed. When he opened them, he drew a shape on the wall, a simple wave. Emotion has rhythm, he said to Ter. Like a code. You mean? Feelings follow patterns too. Sometimes, Cade replied. But sometimes they break patterns. That's when you feel the most. Ter thought about it for a while. That's why logic didn't work with you in the beginning, he said. We were showing you shapes. You wanted meaning. One day, Cade asked for something no one expected. Show me your emotions. Ter hesitated. We don't. Show them like you. You must feel something, Cade said. Fear, joy, curiosity, Ter nodded. We do, but it's inside. Then show me your inside. Ter walked to the center of the room. He sat down and closed his eyes. Then he played a recording from his youth, the sound of his father's voice, long gone now. His hands trembled. His chest tightened. He opened his eyes, and Cade was sitting across from him, not speaking, just understanding. That, Cade said softly, is the beginning of a new language. By the end of the week, the aliens had created a new chart, not of words or numbers, but of feelings. Each shape meant something. A curve meant comfort. A sharp angle meant danger. A soft line meant calm. Cade helped them assign emotions to color, to temperature, to timing. They named it the code of emotion. It was the first language, built on feeling, not grammar. And both species could finally understand each other without ever needing a word. Velik entered the silent room one final time. He stood before Cade and said, "You taught us more than we expected." Cade replied, "You listened more than I expected." They shook hands. It was the first true handshake between a human and a Zalari. But more importantly, it was the first handshake made not with hands, but with hearts. The room was silent, but not empty. The alien diplomats sat across from the humans, their large eyes blinking slowly. The walls were white, smooth, and cold, just like the atmosphere between them. No translator was working. Every device failed to decode the alien speech. It was not just about sound, it was about something deeper. Commander Elise stood behind the table. Her team looked tense. "They don't speak in words," she whispered to her communication officer. "I know," he replied. "No vocal cords. No signals. They just ... look." The alien in the middle tilted its head, staring directly into Elise's eyes. She stared back. For a second, something passed between them, a feeling of curiosity. The scientists had tried everything. Light pulses, mathematical patterns, hand signals. Nothing worked. The aliens didn't respond, except with their eyes. Blinks, movements, patterns. "This isn't a language we can hear," Elise said. "It's a language we have to feel." Captain Reeve crossed his arms. "Feel? We're at a diplomatic standoff, and you want to feel things?" Elise nodded. "Look at them. They don't make a sound. But they keep watching us, blinking in. Rhythm. What if that is their language?" The alien blinked 3 times slow, then fast, then slow again. Another blinked back, but differently. Elise took out her tablet and began noting the sequences. "They're using blinking to communicate," she said. "But it's not Morse code. It's not binary. It's emotional response. They blink based on what they sense from us." "That's crazy," said Reeve. "But it fits," said Dr. Halen, the Zen-up psychologist. "If their brains evolved to feel intentions, not just words, maybe communication is like emotional mirrors." Elise stepped forward. She stared into the aliens' eyes and thought of peace, pure peace. The alien's eyes widened slightly, then blinked once. Very slowly, a ripple of reaction passed through the aliens. They understood. She whispered. "Then say something else," Reeve said. She closed her eyes. She remembered her childhood quiet walks in a forest, the sound of wind in the trees. Her heartbeat slowed, calm, when she opened her eyes again. The alien in front gave a strange movement, a soft tremble through its shoulders. What was that? Someone whispered. "It's a sign," said Dr. Halen. "It means ... respect." Suddenly, one of the aliens reached forward and touched the table with 3 fingers. It held the pose. Elise looked around. Everyone was frozen. She mimicked the gesture. 3 fingers down, slow, respectful. The alien nodded. "They just opened a door," said Halen. "This is not speech. This is understanding." Reeve leaned forward, watching closely. "Can we build something from this?" "We have to," Elise said. "This is the first step." Over the next few hours, Elise and the team built a list patterns of blinking, hand gestures, and emotional focus. The room began to feel different. Less cold. The alien started blinking more frequently, faster. When excited, slower when thoughtful. A breakthrough came when one alien tapped its chest, then pointed at Elise. Dr. Halen smiled. It introduced itself. That was its name. Not in sound but in presence. Elise mirrored the motion. She touched her chest and nodded. A deep silence filled the room again, but it wasn't empty. It was filled with connection. Then the twist. As Elise reached out again, a hidden panel on the alien's chair clicked open. A small device hovered up, a glowing orb, pulsing gently. "What is that?" Someone yelled. The alien stood quickly. Elise raised her hands. "Wait, don't move." The aliens paused. Dr. Halen looked at the orb. "It's not a weapon. It's a translator." "What?" Reeve asked. "The aliens didn't need it before. But now that we understand, they're activating it." As a sign of trust, the orb pulsed. Then, a soft voice filled the room, not from the humans, not from any speaker. "Your emotions are heard," it said. "Your silence was the loudest." Voice. Everyone stared in shock. The alien in front bowed slightly. The orb translated again. "We came to test your kind. Not through war, through understanding. Only those who feel can be trusted." The humans stood silent. "You passed," the orb said. Elise's voice trembled. "Why now? Why reveal this?" "Now?" The alien blinked slowly, then tapped its chest again. The orb translated. "Because now you speak our language." The room was dimly lit. The air hummed softly with the sound of machinery. In the center stood a large, clear panel, the mirror board. It was smooth like glass but could show shapes and light. The Zilari scientists hoped it would be the final step in understanding Dr. Cade. Tur stood beside the board, watching as Cade's eyes scanned it carefully. The human didn't speak but moved his hand slowly across the surface. The light responded, changing colors, shapes shifting like living things. Velik folded his arms, frowning. "He's still silent. Will this board truly help?" Tur nodded. "He has used everything else. Patterns, emotions, colors. The mirror board lets him create and respond at the same time." Cade touched the board and traced a spiral. Then he broke it abruptly, drawing sharp lines that fractured the curves. He tapped the glass twice and stared intently at Tur. Is he asking for a response? Velik asked. Tur leaned forward and drew a triangle on the board. Cade's eyes widened. He smiled faintly and erased the shape. Then he drew a circle around a dot. Tur blinked. A sun and a planet. Cade nodded once. The scientists whispered among themselves. This was progress. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The board flashed wildly, shapes mixing and blending. Cade stepped back, hands raised. Tur rushed forward. The system is unstable. We need to calm it down. Cade's eyes narrowed. Without hesitation, he touched the board and slowly drew a wave, smooth and steady. The chaos slowed. The board settled into a soft blue glow. Velik stared. He's calming the system with shapes. Tur nodded. The mirror board responds to emotion. Cade understands it's not just logic, it's feeling too. Cade's gaze shifted to a corner of the room. A small screen showed the alien council watching from afar. His fingers moved rapidly now, drawing complex networks lines connecting dots in endless webs. Is he mapping us? Velik asked. Tur watched closely. Not just mapping, he's reflecting us. Like a mirror. Suddenly, Cade stopped and pointed. At the board's edge, he tapped once. Then twice. Tur copied the taps. You want to break the board? Cade nodded slowly. With a swift motion, he shattered the calm waves into sharp, jagged lines. The board's colors exploded, red, yellow, black. The scientists froze. Tur frowned. What does this mean? Cade leaned forward, eyes bright. He tapped the jagged lines, then his own chest. Your fear, Tur whispered. Cade nodded again. Room fell silent. Then Cade raised his hand and drew a new shape, one that no one recognized at first. It was neither circle nor triangle, but a symbol of hope, a broken line joining 2 points. Tur smiled. It's a bridge. Cade nodded, his face calm. Communication isn't perfect, Tur said. It's messy, broken, but it connects. Velik sighed. He taught us to see beyond perfection. Cade tapped the board one last time, and the lights dimmed. He looked at Tur. Ready? Tur nodded. Cade touched the mirror board gently, and a new message appeared, glowing softly. Together, we are reflection. Together we speak. The alien chamber was silent. Only the hum of unseen machines filled the air. Dr. Cade stood at the center, facing the high speaker of the Zalari. His heart pounded. This was it, the moment they had all waited for. For months, they had tried. Everything, sounds, symbols, light, movement, and then emotion. But now a new test stood before him, real speech. Not just shapes, not just feelings. Do you think it will work this time? Velik asked quietly from the observation room. Tyara didn't answer. His eyes were locked on Cade. The human's breathing was calm, but Tur knew better. He had watched this man for weeks. Cade always looked calm until he exploded with understanding. Mirror board was gone now. No more drawings. No more silent messages. In its place stood something new. The speech core. A device that could translate emotions, brain waves, and intent into real words. Words both Zalari and human could hear. The high speaker, a tall blue-skinned figure with deep violet eyes, stepped forward. He raised one long hand. We are ready, he said in Zalari tongue. The core translated it instantly. A calm voice echoing in the room. We are ready. Cade stepped forward. He nodded slowly. I understand, he said. The core repeated. It in Zalari. The high speaker's eyes widened. Tur gasped. It's working. The core held both voices in balance. Nothing broke, no flashes, no warnings. The high speaker tilted his head. Why now? Why not before? Cade paused. He looked around. Because we were afraid. Both sides. The voice echoed in Zalari. We feared the wrong sound. The high speaker replied. The sound of meaning. Meaning is dangerous, Cade said. It reveals the truth. Tyr's hands trembled as he listened. The two beings, human and alien, were speaking. Not through code, not through fear, but with words. Then speak the truth, the high speaker said. Cade closed his eyes. We thought you would destroy us. The chamber fell quiet. We thought. You were already destroyed, the high speaker said slowly. Cade's eyes opened. Why? You were. Lost, scattered, so much emotion, so much rage. We were hurt, Cade whispered. We are not built to understand pain, the high speaker said. But we see it now. Velek leaned toward Tyr. Is it real? Are they really connecting? Yes, Tyr whispered. But not with language, with honesty. The high speaker lowered his hand. Then let us begin again, Cade nodded. Together. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A new signal entered the room, loud, broken. A third voice, harsh, cold. Warning, unauthorized contact detected. What is that? Velek asked. Tyr's face turned pale. It's the core's fail-safe system. It's detecting a cross-connection from another species. A third party. Cade heard it too. We're not alone here. The high speaker's eyes glowed. Another watcher? Before Tyr could respond, the walls shimmered and a holographic figure appeared. It was not human, not Zalari. It was metal. Pure metal, with no face, only a single red eye. Speech protocol breached. Emotional data exceeds allowed parameters. Cade stepped forward. Who are you? I am the monitor. Peace must remain. Without emotion. Emotion is not the enemy, Cade said. Emotion leads to chaos. No, the high speaker replied. Emotion leads to connection. The red eye flared. You risk war. Cade clenched his fists. We risk understanding, the monitor's voice deepened. Connection terminated, the core sparked. No, Tyr shouted. He's shutting it down. Cade turned to the high speaker. We must speak now before it ends. Then listen, the high speaker said. He stepped forward, close to Cade. With his hand over the core, he spoke one word. Friend. Cade smiled. He placed his hand beside the alien's. Always. The core exploded in light, one final burst, and then faded. Silenced at the monitor. Was gone, but the message remained. Stored. Echoed. In the human station. In the Zalari chambers. Across satellites. Two voices. Two words. Friend. Always. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. The silence in the control room was heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Tyr stared at the cracked remains of the speech core, its wires glowing faintly. The last contact between the humans and the Zalari had ended in light, too much light, and then darkness. Now, Earth Command was asking for answers. Dr. Cade sat in the corner, his eyes red from exhaustion. He had barely slept since the shutdown. His voice was hoarse. They spoke, Tyr. We spoke. For real. No filters. No guessing. Tyr nodded. And then the monitor silenced it. Cade leaned forward. But not before we created something new. Something even the monitor couldn't erase. You mean that single word? Tyr raised a brow. Not just the word, Cade said. The way it was spoken. Together. Synchronized. Human and Zalari, one emotion, one meaning, same time. Tyr's eyes widened. A shared signal? Cade smiled slowly. More than that, a pattern. Like music. Like code. Outside the station, the Zalari ship hovered quietly. No weapons, no messages, just waiting. They're giving us a chance, Cade whispered. But we need to respond. With what? We don't even have the core anymore. Cade stood. We don't need it. We've got the signal. That burst, it was stored. Velek backed it up just before the explosion. Tyr stared at him. You want to reverse engineer a language from one signal? Not just a language, Cade said. An understanding. Hours later, the room was filled with strange sounds, hum-like pulses, deep tones, and strange flickers of light. Cade and Velik sat at the console, rewinding the final moment of the core. Again and again. Right there, Velik pointed. Hear that? Cade nodded. The rhythm, it shifts. That's not just a word. That's a structure. A sentence. They played it again. Then something clicked. The Zalari's word and Cade's word had overlapped, but not randomly. The pitch, the pause, the feel all perfectly matched. Cade's fingers flew over the console. It's not about the sound. It's the emotion embedded inside the waveform. Tur watched in awe. A language built on feeling? Yes, Cade said. The core wasn't just translating words. It was syncing meaning, and we can do it again. Suddenly, the console beeped. A signal short and pulsing from the Zalari ship. They're reaching out, Velik said. Cade didn't wait. He opened the channel, but not with words. He played. The pattern, the final signal. Just once. Silence. Then. A reply. A longer, more complex pulse. Different tone. Same structure. Tyr's mouth fell open. They answered. Cade grinned. A new sentence. A new message. For hours they traded signals, each one slightly longer, more detailed. The machines recorded every pattern, every pause. The team named it the emotion thread. But not everyone was happy. Earth. Command sent a warning. Unverified communication is dangerous. Cease engagement. Possible threat. Cade ignored it. They always fear what they don't understand. Then came the twist. The monitor returned. A red shimmer lit up the console. The cold voice spoke again. You defy the protocol. Emotions are chaos. Cade stood tall. Not this time. The thread is unstable. It will collapse. No. Tur stepped forward. It will evolve. The monitor hissed. I will shut it down again. But the console flashed. Zalari tech had fused with Earth tech. A hybrid firewall surrounded the system. Cade smiled. You can't break what was built together. The monitor vanished. And the language grew. Days passed. Then weeks. Humans and Zalari exchanged full thoughts, entire ideas without a single spoken word. They called it pulse speak. Not made of letters or grammar, but rhythm, tone, and shared emotion. The first human-Zalari treaty wasn't written. It was played like a song. At the ceremony, the high speaker stood beside Cade. No translators. No machines. Just two beings speaking with their hearts. I hear you, the high speaker said, and I understand. Cade replied. A new language had been born, not of fear, not of control, but of trust. And across the stars, other species began to listen and feel. Humanity had not just spoken, they had taught the galaxy how to listen.